All right. Good morning, everybody. Mark Sudduth here. Wednesday, December 3rd, and you're watching Talking Weather with yours truly, Mark Sudduth. Good to have you on this fine Wednesday. A little chilly here in Wilmington, North Carolina, where I am located. Got the Duke hoodie. Duke fan, as if you couldn't tell, right? It's whatever Wednesday, so I get to talk about whatever I want. Most of it related to the weather. I am going to try some different things today, just with the formatting of stuff. One of which will be how I do the screen share when I present different things. So let's just test that real quick. And I'm going to go to this as background setting, and hopefully this will work where I should be down in the left-hand corner, kind of like a green screen, or sometimes you see people on Instagram and TikTok where they're pointing to stuff and they're just down in a corner or in the middle. I get to see the output over here on my iPhone, and hopefully this works. But I'm not sure if it is because I'm up in the corner still. See, that's really weird. I don't want to be in the corner. I want to be down in the left, but that's stuff I have to figure out with Zoom, whatever. It's just weird. I thought that it would work, but I'm up in the corner and I don't want to be in the corner, but whatever. The corner is for elementary school kids who've not been good, right? Anyway, so welcome to Talking Weather for Wednesday, the 3rd of December. Thanks for tuning in. We have a kind of a shorter show today. There's just not a lot happening in the weather world of a blockbuster nature, but there's always stuff to talk about. And it is whatever Wednesday. So I thought that I would start off with my Duke. Yep, the Duke basketball team beat Florida. Yeah. This is the point of view from the Cameron Crazies. I have been there, done that a couple games in my lifetime. It's hard to get tickets to Duke basketball, but they did. They won at the ACC SEC Challenge by 1 point. I was a little nervous, gotta admit, but they beat the defending national champs. And Carolina won as well, just to beating Kentucky, and probably going to lose half my audience because they don't like Duke, but that's fine. It's all right. It's been a rivalry going back many, many years. But yep, I was excited about that, so that's why I have the Duke hoodie on today. So let's get the telestrator going. And there it is. We'll use probably yellow and red a lot today. It's like Bob Ross. Let's put all the colors at the bottom of the screen and you can follow along at home. Um, if only I could paint like Bob Ross, that would be great. So the weather map kind of blank today. Look at that. There's just not much out there. The lakes region has cleared out for the most part of any weather impacts today. Anything that's there is going to be lingering. Some winter weather advisories and a winter storm warning or two out here in parts of the Rockies. I am curious as to what this color, I don't have it all memorized. What is that in Missouri? Let's just click on it. And then it went away. What the heck? Trying to go back. Let's see. Why did it go away? If I click on that, it should be here. It says hazardous weather outlook, but on the national map, it's oh, it's freezing fog advisory. Wow. So let's just click on that and see what it says. But this is in the Oregon area. So something's goofy. Oh, maybe it's all of them. Maybe it puts all of them in there. Like you got Oregon. Nope, that's the only one. Anyway, something's weird in southern Missouri. I don't think there's any freezing fog, but maybe there is. Point is, the weather map generally much more tranquil today than we have seen the last couple days. So let's jump on the YouTube chat, see who all we've got. Yeah, Duke plays ACC football championship against Virginia. That's right, Javier. You know about that. We were on a Zoom with our patrons recently, and Javier was watching a game behind him. I can't remember what game that was. You remember that? That was funny. It's like, what are you watching there? Um, so KP 1139, Mark, I see we are slated to finally get some rain on Sunday, even quoting a quarter inches. So, where are you from? Where is that? We can certainly examine that. I like this being interactive stuff. That's pretty good. So let me know where you're from, KP 1139. Yeah, top right. It's just annoying. I'm supposed to be down in the corner, and it looks like one of those Instagram things. Yeah, you're watching the Miami Heat game. That's right. So yeah, KP, let me know where you are, and we'll examine your weather, and we'll see. Um, Maybe you do get that quarter inches of rain. All right. I'll wait and see what people say. There's a little lag, of course, the buffering. So yeah, the weather map generally blank, uh, relatively speaking. So I guess that's good. Satellite view confirms all of that. And let me refresh this. I know it automatically should refresh, but no, it didn't. But that's all right. Um, the overall pattern just better than it was recently. A lot of low clouds and fog, though. And you can see all of that through here. Infrared satellite does pick that up. And you can actually see a few interesting things in here where it clears away. Some of this is urban heat island effect. Lots of interesting things. Is this a tropical wave I spy down in the Southeast Caribbean moving through the islands? Very interesting. Kind of late in the year for that, but maybe there is a tropical wave down there. Hurricane season's over. Shouldn't be worrying about that stuff. Do have a pretty good subtropical jet sitting out here in the eastern Pacific with an upper level low right there. And then big high pressure moving in, generally high pressure out west, troughing in the east. We will examine that more as we go along. Hey, there's the YouTube ad. All right, so let's see what we got for the answer from KP. Um, oh, this is Karen. Duh. All right, I'm gonna remember all of these. It's Karen. It's Karen. Karen, I won't dox you with the P part. I know who you are. Good to see you, Karen. So yeah, we'll look at that. We'll look at the specifics for Florida. I will at least say that much. I should have known, Karen. Sorry about that. I'll figure it all out as we get different people that I get to know their names. Some of these YouTube screen names though can be kind of strange sometimes, as you know. There's a couple of them that stand out that people might remember who have tuned into some of our live broadcasts from the past. So anyway, satellite and as I showed the surface map there, the hazards and whatnot, not too bad today, which leads to the best overall misery map that we've seen since the start of this show 2 days ago on Monday when we debuted everything. This courtesy of FlightAware, of course. Looking much, much better today if you're flying across this great country of ours. The big winner for the overall best conditions is SFO. It does look like San Francisco. And look, this is not just weather related, it can be ATC issues, deer on the runway, who knows, right? Weird stuff, drones over airports. Remember that in 24? There's like all those drones everywhere. It's just a weird time we're living in, right? But this isn't just weather, is my point. In fact, up here in the Northeast Corridor, the megalopolis, as a lot of people refer to it as, a lot of this is not weather related. Like, look at Boston. Boston's looking pretty gnarly there with a pretty high misery index overall. But if we go back to the satellite, it's not really related to the weather unless it's wind, because it has been kind of windy up there, and wind is weather. But anyway, if you're flying today, it is looking a lot better. Um, I like this. We're going to show this every single day I do this show because I just love stats like this. They are very cool, sometimes very, very cool, like the minus 15 there. See what I did? Play on words for you. Minus 15 is the low. This is always a day behind. So for December 2nd, you got 88 as the national high temperature in Boca Raton, Florida, and Hollywood, Florida, and Atlantis, Florida. They all tied, sharing that 88. And then negative 15, and we tossed it out of Montana, and it's now in Aberdeen, South Dakota. Yikes, very cold, minus 15. A lot more cold air coming, as I will show you as we move along. But yeah, negative 15 in Aberdeen, South Dakota, and plus 88 there in Boca. So Javier down there in your area, buddy, Miami, Southeast Florida, looking really nice. Going to be in the 50s up here, and that's not terrible compared to minus 15, but I like that 80s stuff. That's more my style. All right, moving along more. So weather history is important. Drop out just a second so I can come back to the talking to you. When I'm up in the corner, I feel like I'm talking at you. That's why I want to get that other thing to work. Just got to figure things out with this Zoom. I got to do some practicing with our Patreon crew and see what works and what doesn't. So again, the biggest reason I started this show is because weather affects everything we do. I'm a weather geek at heart. Hurricanes might be my forte and what I'm known for, but I've always had a huge interest in the weather. And weather history can help us for the future, right? We learn from our past, hopefully avoiding mistakes in the future. And so we will look at weather history semi-daily basis. And once a week, we will always check in. It's actually going to happen Friday of this week with our tornado historian, Jen Naramore, who helped me with today's weather history just a little bit, which I'll get to in just a moment. But yes, we will cover some weather history because it is quite important. And to that end, today's weather history, off the weather history up on the Twitter there, December 3rd, 1978. That's today, but way back in 1978 when I was 8 years old. A violent tornado occurred at night in Bossier City. I hope that's how you say it. In Louisiana, 75 homes, 51 businesses were destroyed, along with hundreds of structures damaged, and 2 people were killed. 266 were injured. These are different snippets from it. And that was today, way back in 1978. Different stats and tracks from it. Barksdale Air Force Base in that area. So you can see the path of the tornado. This is all black and white, of course, scanned and whatnot documents. Old radar, uh, doesn't look anything like we got now, does it? Pretty amazing um, stuff that we can look back and examine. But there's another way too, and this is Jen's site, the Tornado Talk, and she's got several people that help her with this, compiling everything. What an amazing database that's being built here. Jen put this together back in 23. Hey, December, it's the 2 year anniversary of this article. Hopefully Jen's watching or she'll see this later. Way to go. I didn't even do this on purpose. I just thought, hey, I need something for weather history today. And I Twittered it, like searched it, and there it was. And it turns out it's the 2 year anniversary of when Jen posted this update. But anyway, I get excited about little things, as you can tell. But lots of good stats here. Unfortunately, the 2 people that were killed were sisters, and they were young. And that's the tragedy of weather, right? It's incredible. It's amazing. It's awe-inspiring. You think about modern day storm chasing, and we see tornadoes like we have never seen them before. With the Taurus project, that drone, the aerial footage, the stuff that Reed Timmer has done, the ground-based crews. I mean, I think about earlier this year what Brandon Kopic and Corey Gherkin, Fox Weather, working with them, and they were real close to a tornado. I don't remember. I think that might have been Texas. And this stuff's coming to us in 4 and 8K now. We got 360 video. So we're learning more and more visually, but they are still just as dangerous. And this is the interesting thing, just as dangerous, just as deadly today with all of this advanced technology. We have a radar scope right here where we want it. I mean, we have warnings. We have people like James Spann that have been doing it for decades too in the Alabama area, the Deep South. I could go on and on. You get the point here. 1978, we lost 2 people in that tornado, 2 young sisters. But even today, all these years later, they are still just as problematic, despite the advances in technology and warning and everything. I just think that's kind of interesting, that, well, we know a lot more about them, but we still can't seem to, I mean, we're doing better, but we're not at 0 deaths, and we're still getting a lot of damage. So some things change and some things do not. Tornadotalk.com is the site that this comes from, by the way. Just a few stats. It was on the path was 6.2 miles. F4. This is before the Fujita scale got enhanced and all that stuff. The width of the tornado was 400 yards. 2 people died, as I talked about, and it was in Bossier Parish down there in Louisiana, and you can get an idea of where it was. All right. So good stuff here. I appreciate Jen putting this together. We're going to check in with Jen on Friday and see where she is in her travels documenting um, the history of tornadoes. Let's check back up on the chat, see what is happening. And where did my chat go? There it is. All right, what do we got? Hey, there's Jen Naramore. I am watching. Thank you for sharing our site. Of course, absolutely. Um, yep, just looking at some stuff here. Today's picks in my inbox from Catherine Burkett. All right, let me check it out. Throw it on my Discord. So we're gonna have to add a whole segment now, checking in with Catherine in the UK, or we'll call it something like "What's Up in the UK" or something. I don't know. We'll something clever. But yeah, let me pull up this picture. Man, this is a huge one. It's 19 megabytes. Good grief! You sent me an IMAX picture. Very high res photo, apparently. I mean, I'm not complaining. I'm just saying it's a big picture, and it just kills me that it's like already getting dark there. So let's save this sucker. I'm gonna throw it up on my Dropbox. See if I can get this YouTube out of the way, and I'll show you guys. All right. Uh-huh. And Dropbox, talking weather. Yes. All right. Go. Yes. Replace. Let's jump over here to the old Dropbox, get a new tab, and the talking weather. And you see all my folders, big old Dropbox. Come on. And what is the image called? It's just called image. How about that? That is completely clever. And there it is. Full screen if you don't mind. Bam! Well, it still didn't do full screen. I don't know why that picture is 19 megabytes, but whatever. Um, it's amazing that and it's very clear skies over there, by the way, very nice, that you can send 19 megabytes across the ocean, across the globe in just a few seconds. That'll always blow my mind. So I tell you what, Catherine, when you get some good snow, and that'll happen eventually, right? You're in the warm area now. We're going to talk about that in a minute when I show you a post from Ben Knoll. But I can't wait to see this with some good snow cover. So there's our sort of accidental checking in with the UK. I appreciate that. It's good stuff. We got to get more people from the UK, especially since I do this during the time of day when they can participate. When I do shows like at 7, 8 o'clock at night, everybody's sawing logs over there, sleeping. All right, other current weather, just stuff I thought I would show you because it's interesting to me and hopefully to you. I love Arizona. I go out there for the monsoon. Definitely got to get out there for a big winter storm at some point, probably to Flagstaff, maybe down to Sedona. Anybody ever go to Sedona? Nice area. Several of our long time, whatever you call it, fans. I don't like that word fans. They're friends of ours. And that's exactly what they are. A lot of people I've met over the years, in person, in fact. But anyway, they live in Arizona. So once in a while, I'll mention Arizona. Anyway, this is out of National Weather Service, Flagstaff. Great infographic. Once again, some precip in Arizona. You love it. You got it. You need it because it's, typically a dry state. So this is good to see. Most of this is going to be in the lower elevations, obviously rainfall and some, 50 plus percent chance. Not bad. Maybe an inch or less around Flagstaff, in and around some of the canyon areas in northeast Arizona. But no major storms right now. That's probably what some of that. Let's just go back to the no winter advisories out there yet either. Interesting. And there's that graphic. Haha. Moving on along. I like this from the Weather Prediction Center. Although when this gets busy with a whole bunch of different hazards, it starts to look pretty weird. And I don't really have a suggestion on how to fix it. You got these different polygons indicating different impactful weather. It is the 3 to 7 day U.S. hazards outlook. Heavy rain from the 5th through the 6th of the weekend, Friday into Saturday, where you see this dark green color. Not looking too good. If you don't like rain, you're going to really be annoyed with that, right? High winds coming up as an Arctic front comes in. We're going to examine that in a minute. And then way up here in the northwestern parts of the country in Washington State, another beautiful area of the country, high wind and heavy precip as those big Pacific storms roll in. But by and large, this is the good thing the next 7 days for this to be populated only with a couple of areas like this, it's good. It's good for travel and just overall low impact, whatever. And it makes for boring weather conversations, but oh well, we know that stuff much bigger will be coming sooner rather than later. But for now, it's looking pretty good over the next week or so. All right, here's this post from our friend Ben Knoll, and we're going to get Ben on here one day. I'll probably throw him up as a follow Friday, even though everybody already follows him. There might be a few that don't. But I'd love to have Ben on. He's been on a few of our Hurricane U episodes and in some of our Hurricane Highway episodes, come to think of it. Anyway, Ben, always terrific with the maps, and he's working, of course, with the Washington Post, among other duties. And this was interesting, an area including the United States and Canada. Canada, way up north there, right, will form the most extensive zone of below average temperatures on the planet over the next 10 days. So it's going to be cold, but not particularly stormy. And we're going to look at why that is. We got the cold, but we just don't have the big storms. And we'll get to that in a moment. But the context here, as he says, is important. It won't be unusually cold everywhere. A whopping, I mean, it is 65% of the planet will have above average temperatures. So there's that. Let's just zoom in on this map and I'll explain it. You can clearly see, if I use a color that pops better, we'll use this green, deep troughing generally over the eastern parts of North America, and strong northwest flow draining that thick air mass, and cold air is thick, drains down kind of like molasses. Then you got a big ridge sitting out here over the East Pac in the western parts of North America. And so this is where the coldest air relative to average is, well below, way up in the Northwest Territories and parts of Alaska. No, thank you. I'm out. But here's the good thing for folks over in Europe. Speaking of the UK, right? Above normal, generally speaking, over the next 10 days for a good chunk of Europe, and even parts of Siberia up here. But once you get into, and this is how the weather works, right? You just get these small, relatively speaking, zones. It's only 35% of the globe really in this deep freeze. Everything else is at or above normal. And what's above normal? Iceland, Greenland, Europe, like I just mentioned. So the troughiness, the deep trough and the northwest flow, really working with the geography and the overall geologic landscape of North America, that we're in the cold right now relative to the long-term averages, 1991 through 2020, to be specific. But like I said, no major storms on the horizon, which we're going to get to in just a minute, even with the cold air in place. So when you look at what makes a big storm happen, most often it is a temperature contrast, some kind of a boundary, a clash of air masses, that kind of thing. We've got that with very cold, thick Arctic air draining down into the lower 48, North America as a whole. But temperatures alone, as we know, when we have hurricane season, you have very warm water temperatures, but you don't get a lot of hurricanes, like 2025 is a good example. But when you do have them, you get 3 category 5s, like we just saw, right? So the analogy here, and what I'm getting at, is we've got all this cold air, and there's plenty of warm, unstable air to the south coming up from the Gulf. The Gulf is still quite warm, but there's not any way to really mix it all up. There's not sort of a match to light the fire, even though the fuel is there. We don't have the dynamics with a strong subtropical jet coming across to provide energy, this baroclinic energy, what as we call it. That's just not there yet. So what we are getting is generally this sort of zonal flow across the country with storms, and they're just not too potent. So on the one hand, great for traveling, especially air travel, low impact on us as humans and certainly our animal friends, but not exciting for those in the weather business. And like I said, it'll change sooner rather than later. And we're going to get into that in just a moment. Let me jump back on the YouTube chat and just check in and see what's happening. What else? Yeah, we need the rain. Oh, yeah. So Fernandina, Kathy, good to see you on there. Prescott Valley, there you go. Beautiful area out there, by the way, as you quite well know. So yeah, it looks like you're going to get some rain down there in Florida, as I showed you. So that's good. Let's get back to the maps and show you the. Oh yeah, so Ben talked about that cold, and this just kind of proves it. This is again out of the Weather Prediction Center. Record cold possible over the next few days across the Midwest, Ohio Valley, and Mid-Atlantic. Lows are forecast to drop below zero across parts of the Midwest tomorrow morning. And they put this out this morning, so be sure to dress appropriately. My wife says that to me all the time. I'm outside, we're at a football game or just wherever, and I'm always protesting having to wear long pants, shirts, whatever. The hoodie today is mainly because Duke won. And I'll be like, damn, it's cold out here. And she said, well, if you dress appropriately, you wouldn't be. It's that expression. Are you my mother or your whatever? You know, are you their mother or my mother? Whatever. When the kids are involved, you get the idea. So you got to dress appropriately. Minus 11, minus 14, minus 16 up there, parts of South Dakota. Yuck. But it's meteorological winter, so this should come to no surprise to anyone. Further to the east, though, or farther to the east, not quite as bad, but some record lows are possible. And I like the shading here. What are the different gradients? The sort of way to look at it is 4 degrees from tying the record low would be this light color, 1 degree tying the record low, the darker color, whatever. It's an infographic trying to prove a point here with how this could be record low temperatures coming up. So looking at the GFS out to the next 7 days, remember, always it's one of many operational models, but it's just easy to show here on the Tidbit site. And again, not much in the way of big time storminess. There is that rainfall coming in across parts of the south. Let's use red here, spreading across. We call that sort of overrunning, where it's just kind of gray and oh, what the heck? The GFS freaking out on me. There we go. Those gray skies, just kind of blah, right? That overrunning rain. So a little bit of a subtropical jet influence across here, but there's not really a good polar jet coming in to mix to give us a big storm, as I was talking about earlier. But there's that rainfall for the southeast and a little bit of snow out west, but just no big storms to speak of over the next 7 days. Maybe, now this is interesting. This is hour 132. Monday afternoon, some of this cold air could make its way down east of the Appalachians here. Get back to that red color, shows up better. I just noticed this too. Carolinas, possible. Shallow cold air. You could get a few wet snowflakes in the Piedmont, maybe Raleigh, Durham, Chapel Hill, Cary area, which will be awesome because we have a brand new camera in Cary at my son's apartment. I showed that yesterday, or at least I thought I did, or I was going. No, it's not on the map yet. I got to add it or get it added. Anyway, I hope this happens is my point. Let's zoom in because I do have a camera again at my son's apartment, which is like right up in here somewhere in Cary, and it looks out at the highway, and it's a very busy highway, and you know it's just a matter of time when you get frozen precip there that we're going to have all kinds of shenanigans. So that's coming up possibly next Monday afternoon, the 8th. Very interesting stuff. I wasn't paying attention because there's no real big storms, and then something like this sneaks in right in my backyard, and the cold air might be just enough. I'm right there. Interesting. This is Monday night into Tuesday. We'll see. The thicknesses are just about there, 540 thickness line south of me. This is all the deep meteorology stuff here. So it's possible. We'll see. Does this qualify as a rumor of storms where the algorithm will get tripped? We'll approach that in just a moment. Anyway, let's back out to the national map and just keep progressing through the next week. We were almost there, but let's finish it up. So 1 week out, again, not a lot in terms of big storms, but backing up, that potential frozen precip in the Carolinas, maybe parts of upstate South Carolina, but it looks like North Carolina, Virginia, Well, that's possible. You got a pretty good chunk of Arctic high pressure here. The cold air filters in, the cold air damming east of the mountains. Hey, maybe we have our first rumors of storms, but is it a storm? Is it? Yeah, it's part of a storm. It's like wintry weather. Anyway, something we'll keep an eye on. Convective wise, still talking about a few random thunderstorms here and there. This is day one, confined along the Gulf Coast, Texas and Louisiana primarily. And tomorrow, still the Gulf Coast, and then out to Friday, pretty much the Gulf Coast. And this is just low end overall probabilities of some organized convection. Severe weather, really not too big of a problem right now because the dynamics just aren't there. All right, before we get into our next segment, another quick check of what's happening on the YouTube chat. Um, so yeah, wow. Yeah, wow is right. Going to be interesting. Meteorological winter. Yep. Um, Javier, I love your little emojis that you're putting in there. That's awesome. Awesome, awesome, awesome. So this next segment, again, it's whatever Wednesday, and I choose a topic, and generally weather related. I already talked about the Duke thing. That's just more of the warm up, just saying hi and burning a little clock before people log on and start tuning in. But my whatever Wednesday topic for today is how the weather influenced a very popular movie that I saw in the theaters when it came out in, I think it was 87, and that is Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. And I chose this not only because it's a very popular movie this time of year, centered around Thanksgiving, of course, which has come and gone, but I watched it recently. I don't remember, it just popped up somewhere. Probably some algorithm suggested it. I don't know. And I gave it another watch, probably the 15th time I've seen it. My mom and dad were huge fans, as anybody would agree, with Steve Martin, who obviously he's still alive, still with us. Saw him recently with Martin Short up in Durham with my wife, by the way. And then John Candy, who unfortunately is no longer with us, but his awesome performance, his incredible ability to still make us laugh all these years after his passing, remains with us to this day. But the big thing about this movie, they had an insane amount of problems shooting it in and around these wintry scenes that were supposed to be part of the plot. In case you have not seen it or it's been a while, I'll give you the basic summary. So Neil Page, Steve Martin, is trying to fly home in time for Thanksgiving from New York. It looks like he works for an ad agency, probably Draper, whatever. Anyway, Mad Men, right? Um, just kidding. So he works for an ad because they're in this room and there's like this guy looking at some layouts and he's trying to figure it all out. And Steve's got to go. Neil Page, he's like, I gotta go. I gotta get on a plane. He's got to make the 6 o'clock. And is trying to get home to Chicago, be with his wife and his daughter and his son. Simple. New York to Chicago, what, 90 minutes tops on a commuter plane? No big deal. Except the weather interferes. There's a blizzard and big time snow in Chicago. He meets Del Griffith, a shower curtain ring salesman. By sheer chance, if you haven't seen the movie, I don't want to give too much away. And the two of them end up basically next to each other, and all kinds of comedy and shenanigans ensues, including interactions with the weather. Most of it is predicated on the fact that there's a blizzard in Chicago, and so they have to land in Wichita, in Kansas. And I remember the scene where his wife, he's talking to her, she's like, Neil, I don't understand. What does a snowstorm in Chicago have to do with Wichita? And he explains it and whatever. And he and Dell go on this epic journey to try to get back to Chicago through the planes part didn't work. Obviously, they had to land in Wichita. So they try trains, buses, and a car that catches on fire and all that funny stuff. So anyway, they had a doozy of a time, the production crew did. John Hughes directed, filming this sucker. So I want to show you a real quick clip here. We'll leave the audio off, where he's going to get his rental car in St. Louis, and he's going to go off on his own, and he's done with Del Griffith. They had a falling out, and his rental car is not there. I'm going to skip ahead. It's not there. The Marathon, which is a fictional rental company, bus leaves him. He's like a mile or 3 miles away or whatever, and he's got to walk across the parking lot and get back. He gets pissed off as all get out and whatever. So here's what's interesting. All right. So he's going. This is the scene when I was watching it recently that really piqued my interest. It was on Amazon. I remember now. And they got that X-ray where you can see more info. And the snow wasn't there. It was like in the 80s when they were supposed to shoot this. It was one of those weird warm spells in the middle of winter or whatever. And so they had to make fake snow. So there was actually no snow around. It was warm and just blah, right? And so the crew had a very tough time dealing with all that. And so here's the little graphic I made up for you. Some weather facts, how winter shaped planes, trains, and automobiles. I made up a list here, and I'm going to read this to you because this is just crazy. You ready for this? All right. So again, the overall synopsis is that the film is planned around harsh winter conditions. And they want to film in Illinois, they want to film in New York, but all those areas were unseasonably warm. And they really had a time of it. And they had snow-free weather, which a lot of this they were supposed to be driving across snow-covered countrysides and whatnot. They had to truck in snow, use snow machines, and even redress locations overnight to keep the scenes consistent. John Hughes said that the hardest part of the whole thing was dealing with the weather. Um, a huge snowstorm scene had to be created manually. The early scenes where Steve Martin's character gets stranded because of a Chicago snowstorm were mostly fake blizzards created with blowers and soap flakes. The real winter weather wasn't cooperating, so the crew literally, and where's Marjorie Taylor Greene when we need her? She would love this part. I'm kidding, but maybe, I mean, they literally manufactured winter. So that's where it all started. 1987. That's when it all started. All this weather manipulation stuff. Obviously, I'm joking, but anyway, you can have a little fun with this. Come on. And she's come around, by the way. Well, story for another completely different podcast. High winds ruined several airport scenes where he was walking across. It was really, really windy, so they had a trouble with that, especially with any audio that Neil Page was supposed to say. So they had to do a lot of ADR or additional dialogue recording. Um, and ironically, the movie about travel chaos actually had weather-based travel chaos. Several filming days were pushed because flights for the cast and crew were canceled. Perfect, right? They should have had FlightAware in our show. Icy road conditions delayed equipment trucks. The production had to jump between cities to chase the appropriate weather. I mean, this is absolutely fantastic that all these different problems that they had. And then John Candy, jokingly, sometimes he was candid, said, we're making a movie about travel problems while living the sequel. That's fantastic. The train scene where they were on a train and it broke down. And I remember they said somebody smelled smoke, and Steve Martin's like, smoke, smoke. They said they smelled smoke, and they all get off, and it was sub-freezing temperatures. Equipment batteries drained quickly. They had to do a lot of frequent warm-up breaks. The rental car walk, I already talked about that. Weather continuity was one of the hardest challenges of the entire shoot. And then the burned up car scene benefited from unexpected weather. After the car fire, an unexpected cold snap made the smoke from the wreck linger longer, which the cinematographer used to enhance the disaster look of that scene. So there you go. If you like that movie, Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, that, my friends, is how the weather played a big supporting role in a lot of different ways in that all-time classic movie. So there you go. Let's see what you guys are saying about it. Anything? Oh, look at that. Seen that movie? Yep. Yep. Thank goodness they didn't use mashed potatoes. Haha, exactly. I think I know what you're talking about there. Um, Close Encounters of the Third Kind comes to mind. Maybe we're not talking about the same thing, but remember Richard Dreyfuss was carving Devil's Tower out of mashed potatoes? That's where my mind went on it. Anyway, that's the weather and planes, trains, and automobiles. All right. So, rumors of storms. I guess the one that I just talked about, potential snowstorm. But does it qualify for a snowstorm? I don't know. We'll see. It's a little over 5 days away, so we'll see. I'll maybe tomorrow. I'm just thinking ahead, thinking out loud with you fine folks. Maybe tomorrow, if he's around and available, I can get weather forecaster here in Wilmington on Tim Armstrong. Even if he's not on duty, he may be gracious enough to come on and talk about some of this potential there. Again, it snuck right by me. I wasn't even aware. Shows you how thorough I am, right? That I'm looking for the big stuff, and it's right there in front of you. Sometimes the little ones. So yeah, rumors of storms. I heard it through the algorithm. Uh, this is yesterday. Remember, I showed you this yesterday. This was yesterday's example at 300 hours. This potential big ice and snow event with Arctic air draining down. This was at 300 hours valid, December 14th, from yesterday's 6Z run. Fast forward 24 hours to today's 6Z run. Poof! It's gone. That just shows you. Of course, 300 hours out, too much chaos, too much randomness, and it is a complete different map altogether. So whatever potential rumor of a storm that would have been, anybody that was talking about it on social media, they would have to show this today, right? And that's what we do. That's why we're trying to get in front of this. ECMWF, same thing, nothing there at 300 hours out. So back to the current GFS. That's 300 hours. We already covered that. Already covered the potential of this situation at hour 132. But again, nothing really blockbuster catching your eye. Holy cow, look at that big storm. None of that showing up just yet because the elements just aren't coming together the right way. And again, that's generally pretty good news for most people because bad weather, especially when it gets really bad, we've had enough of that, right? And we got to be ready for the next time, but at least for the time being, no worries. But you know what's really cool is just looking at this, you can clearly see the shape, even through the thickness lines of the troughs and ridges. Meteorology is interesting. That's for sure. So yesterday, I wanted to revisit this real quick. I showed you this on my Tech Tuesday, discussing that Davis Instruments Weather Monitor 2. There's the anemometer for it. This is during Hurricane Bertha. Way back in 1996, the very first time that I had a picture taken of me doing what I do now, many, many years ago, and still have all my hair, but I have a lot more weight than I did back then, too. Anyway, I was wondering what happened to that thing right there. That is the little Davis Instruments computer. It's in a little plastic bag to keep the rain off of it. And I was wondering what I did with that. And I said yesterday that I don't know where it is, which is absolutely hilarious because it was right behind me the entire time. Here it is. It was living back here somewhere. My wife helped build this with me a few years ago as sort of a backdrop. You know, YouTubers have to have some kind of a studio and a backdrop, and it's kind of dusty. Clearly, I gotta wipe it off and whatever. But anyway, that's it. It was hiding right behind me, and that is literally the exact unit that is in this picture right here. That is this. Whoops, I'm trying to show it to me over there. That's just sad. That right there is that right there. How about that? That's the same one all these years later. And you know what? If I put a 9-volt battery, because you can power it by a 9-volt battery, that's how I did that. I bet it would work. And it would probably tell me the accurate barometric pressure. You know what? Maybe next Tuesday we'll do just that. I'll get a 9-volt battery. We'll plug that sucker in and see how well it works here in my office and get a pressure reading. And it'd be a good plug for Davis Instruments and all these. That thing's almost 30 years old, and I bet it still works just fine. Um, so yeah, let me go back to sharing. We're almost done for today. What time is it? 10:50. All right. Already did that. So yeah, tomorrow's show, Thursday, Throwback Thursday, and of course that's a thing on the internet already. It's not like I'm claiming that I invented that, but for Throwback Thursday, I am going to show you something from our past, our project's past, and I've got a really good one for tomorrow. It's going to be a surprise, so make sure you tune in for that. Really neat stuff from 2012. That's the only hint that I will give you. So, Throwback Thursday tomorrow, a blast from the past from 2012. All right, what else we got? Oh, yeah, we're almost done. If you want to email me, we still have that, right? Hermark@gmail.com. Absolutely, we do. Do tag me up on the Twitter if you want to share or have an idea or a picture or a video or hate mail, whatever. I can take it. Hit me up at Hurricane Track or in our Discord, which is, of course, connected to our Patreon. And like Tornado Talk, we are on Patreon, a wonderful platform for creators to have not only funding, that almighty dollar helps to pay for everything we do, but the connections that we make with people is just incredible. And has allowed us to do so much in these past almost 10 years that we've been doing Patreon. It has been a true game changer. So we are on Patreon, and of course we are on the Twitter over here and the YouTube. And this will probably start doing that infinity thing, right? Like when you look at a mirror and there's 1,000 mirrors, and you're watching on YouTube, so you already know that. All right. So let me do this and get ready to say goodbye. So let me check YouTube chat one more time and just see what your thoughts might be on anything. Da da da. You should ask the newspaper if they have the negative or an original print of the photo that you can have. That would be interesting. Maybe they have it on like microfilm. Um, Interesting. So, Catherine, going to the dentist, so you can't tune in. Well, no worries, Catherine. This will be archived for a million years on YouTube's cloud, and you'll be able to see everything there. Well, that wraps it up for today. Again, tomorrow, Throwback Thursday. You don't want to miss that. And then I'll tease a little bit about Friday. Two guests coming in on Friday, a whopping two, as we start to roll in the feature where we bring guests upon us. That'll be happening Friday, and I absolutely guarantee you're going to want to tune into that as well. All right. I think that's it from me for today. I am Mark Sudduth, big Duke fan over here. I'm going to drop the video first, leave the audio going for a few more moments. Thanks as always for tuning in. I will see you again tomorrow.